Company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company?
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It is not often that I will make this confession to you. And I will begin this Tuesday with this confession. There are times that I don't envy, well, I don't in general envy, but there are times where I admit to, understand, relate to, or to an extent have a compassion or an empathy for the predicament that can face Chris Ballard. Now, I know in this town, especially considering the record, considering the lack of divisional titles, considering, a lot of factors, I know that that's kind of crazy to say. That, Chris Ballard I wouldn't say he's a polarizing, and I think there are people that misunderstand the definition of the word polarizing, but I don't think Chris Ballard's necessarily a polarizing sports figure in Indy. But he's not always the most popular. And I think sometimes the critique of him is such that you can look at it and say, is that totally fair? And yes, it is, because by definition, the buck stops with him. But I saw okay? What's that? No, I have allergies of some sort. I've never had allergies. And I know yesterday J&V had like a head cold. I don't have that. I guess the pollen count's really high. And so my sinuses, my air passage is blocked somehow. Somebody can let me know, by the way, is that because I've never been one that gets allergies. And when I think of allergies, I always think of that as being like a spring thing. Like, are we in a weird allergy? If I was to eliminate what it is that I have, it's either summer cold, which I don't think it's that, or it's allergies. So does anybody who has tendency for allergy, can they verify or dismiss that the conditions are right now allergenic, if that's a word? Or should I rule that out? But at any rate, when it comes to Chris Ballard and the signing of Keenan Allen, I got to thinking about it, and it basically comes down to three things. And let me preface by saying, with those three things, it is rather unfair to Chris Ballard, because you can kind of throw your arms up and go, this literally is the ultimate catch-22, right? Because to an extent, the way that I lay it out, he was damned if he did and damned if he had not. But there are three ways to look at the signing of Keenan Allen for the Colts. The first is, okay, so he is the natural slide-in, fill-in for Michael Pittman. They knew when Michael Pittman Jr. left that they had something in the works. They knew that, okay, we're probably going to sign Keenan Allen. Shane Steichen has a relationship with them, and we are the ones that are in discussion. So while everybody's yapping, everybody's talking, everybody's stressing, everybody's tweeting, everybody's posting about the wide receiver position, we knew from the get-go, it's cool. We've got Keenan Allen waiting in the wings. So we put him there. You have Alec Pierce playing the role that we intend him to play. You have Josh Downs still floating around doing his thing. You got Tyler Warren continuing to grow. You've got a pretty stout cabinet of weapons for your offense. And they may well have just from the very beginning said, people can talk all they want about Ashton Doolin and about the different wide receivers that, Anthony Gould, Westbrook and Keenan, all these players, and they can yap about that all they want and say that they haven't stepped up and nobody sees the position. But we're cool with it because we know that we're going to get Keenan Allen eventually. That is a possibility. The second possibility is that while we all were chirping and yapping and stressing and fretting and posting about how they hadn't addressed the receiver position, that Chris Ballard, Ed Dodds, Shane Steichen were saying, it's cool because we have a deep room. One of our guys will step up. We like the guys that we have. You can play the old Ballard clip of, every time I read Bowen and listen to Bowen, he's talking about wideouts. I mean, that's like the 5-year-old clip that we used to play all the time. And maybe we were back to that. Maybe Chris Ballard and the Colts were like, look, everybody's talking about this, but, like, it's going to be fine. It'll work itself out. And it is possible that in that thought process, they really did think, and now they were able to look back and they forced themselves to understand, you know what? We don't have that guy. Nobody did jump out and grab a hold of it. Kind of like, you ever been skiing, Eddie? Snow skiing?
I have not. But if you want me to, fake it, I can. Yeah, Jake, I have been.
You're taking page from the critique we got yesterday on the text line about you. Did you see that?
What are you talking about?
Somebody texted on the text line and said, why is Eddie too good to always participate in the show?
I don't think I'm too good to participate in the show.
I believe it said, what's his problem? I believe that was the question. If you've ever gone snow skiing, and I'm a terrible snow skier. I have a theory, by the way, not to derail here, but I have a theory that unless you learn it as a child, snow and water skiing both are very difficult to learn as an adult, especially the taller you are. People laugh at me about this, and they're like, you're not a great skier. And I'm like, but I didn't learn until I was like 15, and I was 6'4". What difference does that make? A big difference. You don't see a lot of like really tall adult learning or teenage learning snow skiers. But I digress. When you snow ski and you learn it, they have what's called the bunny hill. The bunny hill is exactly that. And to get back up the bunny hill, it is so small it doesn't even have a ski lift. It has what's called the tow rope. And the tow rope is this little rope that just sits there, and you have to walk up and get a hold of it. Then you hold on to it, and it tows you back up the hill. But grabbing a hold of the tow rope is, you don't just grab it and go. You see people all the time trying to grab the tow rope, and they fall down. There's a certain art to like squeezing it at just the right pace where, boom, that it gets a hold, and then you're holding on, and you're good to go. But it's very difficult to figure out how to grab that thing as you're kind of moving along and just gently like squeeze just enough where now you're going along with it. And to an extent, it feels like, and yes, this Keenan Allen thing might have been done from the get-go, but it feels like the availability at wide receiver was for that room and those players not named Josh Downs or Alec Pierce. It was like the tow rope. It was there for the grabbing, grab a hold and ride along, but nobody was really able to completely get the right grip on it. Ashton Doolin kind of fell out, and it wasn't like there was a play that jumps out with any of these guys where you go, oh, yeah, that's where he lost the opportunity. But just none of them really grabbed it. So that would be theory number 2. They realized, you know what, everybody was right. We got to address this. And then theory number 3, which is the one that I don't think is true, but I don't know that it can be completely ruled out. And that is this. Is it possible? I'm not saying probable. Is it possible that this is actually the first look at the tarot card, the first glimpse, the first hint, the first peek behind the curtain, that the Colts are now subconsciously or even consciously, which would be worse, aware that Alec Pierce may not be ready? I know we keep hearing that he's going to be ready. I know that the timeline says that he's right where he should be in terms of week 1. But is it possible that Alec Pierce isn't ready and therefore and they realized it and they thought, we got to address this? Now, the reason I say that there is an empathy there is because the reality is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the origin of this was. It doesn't matter what the massive influence is. It doesn't matter what the overwhelming final sentiment was to sign Keenan Allen. What matters is he signed. He's here. So who cares what led to it? In the end, whichever of those you're looking at, if it's that no receiver got a hold of the toe rope and Chris Ballard kept telling us they would, well, you know what? He realized that and he made good on it. If it's that they knew from the get-go when Michael Pittman Jr., the second that Michael Pittman Jr. walked out the door and they allowed that, well, they traded him, obviously, but, you know, when they removed that off of the roster, then they knew then we'll be okay because Keenan Allen is a guy that Shane Steichen knows and they've had conversation, and so we'll get him. We just aren't sure when we'll finalize it. In that case, then that is Chris Ballard made a move knowing that there was going to be a way to fulfill that. And then the third being, if in fact it's Alec Pierce, then you know what? Okay, sure. They signed him to the big deal, and maybe they shouldn't have done that if there was question about his health. I don't think that's the case. But if it was, in my hypothetical here, then kudos to them. They addressed it. Either way, I feel like, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody. I'm absolutely as guilty of this as anybody. But any scenario that has led to this signing, if you so chose, if you wanted to be cynical Steve or pessimistic Pete, then it offers you that opportunity. But instead, you should be optimistic, Ollie, and just say, you know what? Good player. Is it a game-changing player? Maybe not. But a good, solid player that, assuming everybody comes back at full health and you're clicking on all cylinders, I think adds a compliment to their offense and is a really good piece.
I think what he's going to be most impactful, Jake, or where he'll be most impactful is on third downs, because last year, you know, the phrase was uttered a lot if you watch the Chargers, because they had a good amount of games on, you know, primetime television, or they followed the Colts in the afternoon window at 4 o'clock. It was third and Keenan. Like, they would always go to him on third down. 49 of his 81 receptions last year resulted in a first down. And that's been historically, you know, his role within his career is he's a chain mover. He's a go-to guy when it's third and short, third and medium, because he has a really, really high football IQ to understand coverages and where he needs to sit when it's in zone and where he needs to cross, you know, whether that's in front of a linebacker or a corner in man coverage to get open, to result in the chains moving for another first down. So I think that's where you're going to see him most impactful is on those third and shorts, on those third and mediums to get those first downs for the Colts.
Which have typically been, it probably takes a little bit of heat off of the combo of Alec Pierce and Tyler Warren both, right? Josh Downs as well. I mean, all those guys are guys that have the wrinkles where they are your, quote, third down guy, right? By the way, Eddie, you mentioned this. You said he's got a high football IQ, right?
Yes.
Give me a basketball player that has a high basketball IQ. TJ McConnell?
Tyrese
Halliburton, yeah. I'd like to have a high IQ in something.
You certainly do, Jake.
No, I'm serious. Like, in what?
Graveyards and knowing where celebrities are buried.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's not bad. But I have to look those things up.
You have a high motorsport IQ.
Okay, that's kind of by default, isn't it? Just by being around it.
You have a high Oasis IQ.
Okay, now that's not bad. That's not bad. I got the shirt on today. I watched last night.
You have a high IQ for bad analogies.
Now we're digging here. What about you? Your high IQ. You'd like a high IQ in what?
Watermelon gummies?
Okay. No. We're emphasizing IQ, not the high part. Okay. You'd like an IQ in what?
It's a good question. Dealing with you?
Okay. Fair. I think I'm easy to deal with. I think I'm low maintenance. Now, we both have a high IQ when it comes to fine Canadian culinary taste. I'm not big on the poutine. You go to Canada, they love poutine. Have you ever had poutine?
The what?
Poutine.
Poutine.
Yes.
What is poutine?
Poutine. Poutine. A Canadian delicacy that is largely made up of gravy over an order of French fries. Poutine. Noun. I think it's disgusting. People in Canada go bonkers over them. Everything is poutine. You want poutine with that? No, I'm cool. But it's basically gravy over French fries. Now, also popular in Canada, Timbits.
At Tim Tams or whatever.
Tim Tams Australian. Timbits Canadian. Timbits are just Tim Hortons donut holes. There's like nothing special about them. But they go bonkers over them. Same with Tim Hortons coffee. They go crazy over it. And then anything maple. But I do dig some maple syrup. But one of the things they have there that we love, you and I both, are the ketchup potato chips. Eddie, our job is to talk about sports and talk about what happens in the world of sports. And, for example, to talk about or preview tonight's game between the Fever and the Toronto Tempo at 7 o'clock, pregame here at 6:30. And we should be focusing on the basketball aspect of it, even though with the Fever, and I have said, there's this vortex with the Fever. There's all this outside basketball, outside the lines narrative about the Fever. And I think a lot of that's unfair, and it's a distraction, and we should be focusing on the basketball aspect of things. But we've come to the spot here where I cannot follow, just like I talked about with Chris Ballard. It's literally like a exposing hypocrisy Tuesday. There's a hypocrisy with the way that we interpret the Keenan Allen news, because if we wanted to, we could take it either way. We could find the negative, but the reality is they took care of and addressed what it was that everybody was jumping up and down about. There's a hypocrisy in the fact that I've been saying, and I know John has been saying, and I've been talking about how there's all this extraneous noise, all this chatter, the vortex around the Fever, most of which is totally unfair because it has nothing to do with their basketball play on the floor. And yet I'm about to fall into it right now because I can't stand for this. I can't stand for, and I have to call this out. I have to bring to the airwaves to attention the absurdity, the lunacy, the inaccuracy of the fact that Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, I think it was 2 out of 3.
And Lexi Hull, they did a taste test.
But Lexi Hull was on board.
She knows ball.
The other two, I can't stand for it. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham dismissed the ketchup potato chips. They gave it, what do I say? It's an acquired taste. Now, Bria Goss, I believe, bought the ketchup potato chips. Did we get a scouting report from her?
She did not text me back, Jake. She hasn't even read the message.
You know, I'll bet if I text her, she'll get back to me.
I think she's dodging the question because she doesn't want to let us down that she may not have liked the chips either. That's my theory.
Can you get her back on so we can get a scouting report from her? I can't believe that they tried the ketchup. They didn't give it a fair shake. The first bite or two of the ketchup chips, you definitely kind of think like, what? It's an acquired taste. And once you get it, you're like, okay. So last night, the Fever did a taste test of Canadian snacks, and they voted down the ketchup potato chips. Lexi Hull was on board. The rest of them were like, no, this is no good. What else did they try? They did the all-dressing chips, which are like nothing. I mean, those are very overrated. Did they do a Coffee Crisp candy bar? or an Arrow candy bar. The only one I saw was the ketchup chips.
And the all dressing.
Yeah, the all dressings, yeah. The all dressing has no flavor at all, actually. It's kind of weird. They taste stale. The all dressing just tastes like stale
coffee
chips.
crisp, that was another one.
They did do that. What'd they say about that?
No idea. I didn't watch the entire thing. Once two of them said they didn't like the...
Yeah, you were out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were out. Big show lined up. Zach Kiefer is going to join us coming up at 11 o'clock. Stephen Holder at noon. Kiefer has an interesting article about, on The Athletic, and it's going to lead me to go off on one of my rants. I'm going to go off on one of my rants, but I think it's an important rant. I think it's an important lesson. And it spirals off of what Zach Kiefer wrote about in The Athletic recently. But what he wrote about, which is really interesting, is NIL has changed the landscape in totality. It has good aspects, it has bad aspects. One of the good aspects of NIL is we are a free market, capitalistic enterprise culture. If you have brand equity, then take advantage of it. If you are a brand or a product that has dollar value to it, cash in. Get what's yours. Get the bag, as the kids say. But in college athletics today, you have, as you do in society, you have your one percenters, you have your middle class, you have your lower class. And oftentimes what harms people or where people get in trouble is when they have a lack of understanding of their class. The lower class, there's nothing, I understand it. You know, you aspire to improve your position, to improve your lot, to have nicer things. I totally understand that. But people prematurely dive into it to try to keep up with the Joneses above and beyond their means. And to an extent, you have that within college athletics with NIL because you have the players that are the elite quarterback at the elite school that's able to go and get, due to NIL, $3.5 million a year. But then you have your quarterback at smaller D1, 1AA school that sees their high school classmate, that sees their high school rival, their college rival, suddenly get a big payday. And they think, I'm there too. They don't have an understanding of their class. They are trying to run with as a 1%er, but they're a 40%er. And so they throw their hat in the ring and they say, you know what? I'm entering the transfer portal. And they turn their back on the school that initially gave them a scholarship and a stipend of $30,000 for the year. And then they find out their market value actually is not very marketable. And their value is much lower than what school number one initially gave them. So they throw themselves in the portal, and now all of a sudden, the musical chairs happens, and they realize that it's down between themselves and Freddie Fever and one inflatable chair at the middle of the court while the music's playing, and then you do the math and you go, I think this is actually designed for Freddie Fever to win this. And you're in a world of hurt. And we're seeing more of that with this kind of lack of grasp or understanding about how it all works amongst young people. But notably, you are also seeing, in terms of the representation and the agents and the behind-the-scenes greasy wheel stuff that goes into these players moving from one spot to the next, you are now seeing agents, and I'm using air quotes, representation that are not even your long-standing traditional agents. You have college students and or recent graduates of college that are buddies with these guys that went through a marketing class that are like, I'll rep you. And all it takes is 2 or 3 of them to facilitate some big deal. Now, all of a sudden, every kid is like, you know what? Me and my boys, like, that's what we're doing. Agents hate it because it is basically, and they can sit there and say, like, these guys are jokes. They're not real agents. Maybe they're not, but they're starting to take a lot of the action. It's no different than any line of work that people are in where you're like, yeah, but that's not like the real. I mean, I'm a professional at this. That they're like a wannabe. Well, they're the wannabe that's now getting professionally covered. And so it's created this murky situation where you can't sift out which players are real and which aren't, which agents are real and which and aren't, which offers are real and aren't. And it becomes very gray. And Zach Kiefer wrote a fascinating article about all of that. He'll join us at 11. We'll mix in some NFL talk, obviously, as well, and Stephen Holder. But when we come back, how this game of free agency, whether it be Keenan Allen, whether it be Josh Hoover at Indiana, it trickles its way down. And it leads to one of the important things for people and parents of young people and athletes that needs to, again, be addressed. I'll explain next here on a Tuesday. Is it an allergy Tuesday or a head cold Tuesday? We're still trying to find out. It's Corey and Company on the Fan.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Keenan Allen is a Colt, a little over $8 million. People are skeptical of it for certain. And again, I go back to, while I don't entirely disagree with that sentiment in terms of being skeptical about it, the reality is he's here. So what led to this or what took so long or whatever else is somewhat irrelevant. First time he makes a big play, has a big game, we're not going to worry about that. But this is a fair question. Jake, why in the world would the Colts delay bringing in Allen? Wouldn't he help sell tickets, build excitement a little more for the season? Wouldn't having him in camp earlier help the offense and the others around him? Hope it plays out differently, but I see this as a desperate move by management because they left themselves no other choice. I could certainly see that standpoint of things, but again, as I go back to, depending on what happens, that's going to be irrelevant, right? If he plays well, and if he doesn't, then it's going to be, well, that's why they waited so long. Jake, we also knew that Hendrickson was going to come play for Lou, that Josh McDaniels wanted to coach for Chris, that Andrew Luck was going to take us to a Super Bowl. Nothing is known with Chris Ballard. Okay, fair. But when it comes to agents, free agency, that sort of a thing, Zach Kiefer, who's going to join us coming up in about 30 minutes, has an interesting article about the NIL aspect of the college transfers. And two things. Number one, the wild, wild west of the fact that since right now there's really like no jurisdiction, there's no defined parameter or principle on free agent, and I'm using air quotes, signings at the college level. And so as a result of that, the rules, the regulations, the fine print, the legalities that one needs to tiptoe and wade through to make deals official, those are by and large handled by professional agents that understand the bylaws, the terminology, the legal aspects. Once all of that is gone and unnecessary, now all of a sudden you have players that are getting represented by their college buddy, their frat buddy, one of their boys from high school. And that's all well and good right now because there's no fine print that needs to be looked over from a legal standpoint because there are no rules, basically. But that's also lending itself towards players that are getting left out in the cold saying, wait a minute, what happened? What happened? I threw my hat in the transfer portal, and now all of a sudden, between players coming out of high school and other players that were in the portal, I had a pretty good situation at State U, but I thought that I was going to get more because I saw what other guys were getting. And so I threw my hat in the portal, and State U replaced me with a guy from Tech U. And now, what's going to happen here? Where's my deal? Well, he got left out in the cold. It is creating in some players, not all, but in some players, it is creating a false sense of skill set and worth. And I think that bleeds itself down. Like anything in life, it bleeds down. It runs back down the ladder. It starts one area, and then it just, you start laxing. And so then in level B, the same thing starts to apply. Then in level C. And as we get set and we embark upon another school year, I'm again reminded, and I feel the responsibility to again proclaim my fair warning about the whole youth sports, travel sports, and now, because now it's bleeding into a new area, see? Because there's no rules here, there's no parameter, it starts to bleed itself into a new area. I'm old enough to remember, and it was groundbreaking headlines. And yes, old man yelling at clouds when I say this, I realize. But I'm old enough to remember when Damon Bailey verbally committed to Indiana after his sophomore year at Bedford North Lawrence. And that was literally like stop the presses. A sophomore. I mean, it was one thing that John Feinstein wrote about him when he was a seventh grader, but he has a college scholarship as a sophomore, and he's already committed to Indiana as a sophomore. It was unthinkable. Different era. Now, if you don't have a list of your top 20 offers by the end of your freshman year, you're nothing. Just the way it works because it trickles down. But we're getting into a danger zone to an extent because what you're seeing now, and I know that I honestly, we now live in a world, Eddie, I'm sure you've noticed this too, where you see something posted on social media, and the first thing that you now need to do is verify whether it's real or whether it's in jest, right?
Yeah.
Like, is this a parody account or is this real?
Yeah.
Is this a real photo or is this AI? I mean, admittedly now, with any photo that you show somebody, the first thing you say is, well, that looks like AI. It's like the first thing that you do, right? And so I saw yesterday a posting, and I thought to myself, this has to be parody. But I saw, and it's made the rounds now, I think it was in Kentucky, a young couple with their son who's sitting at a table with a backdrop behind him of a team logo, and he's like super excited to announce that our son is going to be playing for such and such travel ball team, 7 and under. 7 and under. And this kid's wearing the hat like he chose this travel team over that travel team. Parents, I'm telling you right now, there are exceptions to the rule, of course. But for 90% of you in the youth travel sports, the team that your kid is playing for, it is not because they are a prodigal player within their sport. It's because you have a pocketbook they know that you are going to open up for these teams. I can look, and I say it all the time, you show me the national championship team in some AAU sport, and you see it, and I'm like, okay, 70% of this roster are kids whose dads are footing the bill for it, and the other 30% are the kids that are the ones that are actually going to play Division I athletics, while the others, by the time they're in JV, are wondering why they're not on the team anymore because they're still 5'7", 145. It is a total racket. It is a total scam. It is completely designed to milk gullible and attention-craving parents out of every expendable dollar that they have so that their kid can wear the plastic gold ring and the flat-brimmed hat and look like a somebody, which is so incredibly irresponsible to create in your kid this fiction in their head that they can never live up to. It is the biggest disservice you're doing to your kid by falling into this trap. And in addition to that, what it does is it creates and further accentuates this falsehood that then carries into each step where you're constantly chasing and trying to live up to something that isn't reality. It started with just simply travel ball for like 15 and under. Then it was travel ball for 12 and under. Then it was travel ball for 7 and under with their own little mock press conference with some kid sitting there that's too young to even understand that the people he's supposed to be looking for guidance to navigate him or her through how you handle life and its challenges and its pitfalls and rejections, instead of teaching your child how to understand building themselves up, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps when rejection is at the doorstep, you are creating for them a lifestyle where you're saying rejection isn't going to be there because we're constantly going to buy you out of it. That is such an incredibly dangerous way to live. But in addition to that, now we have the academies. Now it's, well, my child isn't going to regular school. They're going to an academy where they do online classes for 3 hours a day, and then they're in the lab grinding, working on their left and right-handed batting skills for 3 hours a day as part of the academy, which is actually taking place at a strip mall of a formerly Marsh restaurant or Marsh supermarket somewhere in the nether years. It starts when we talk about on this show and in different areas, and we talk about things in sport that confuse us, bewilder us, that we deem to be totally absurd. Part of why we point that out is because it trickles its way down. And it trickles its way down into a society where we have a completely imbalanced perception as to the way the world and life really works. And you're seeing an entire era now of kids walking around that have absolutely no clue how to unlock the door that's locked before them because their entire life they were actually just handed a situation in a room with nothing but glass doors where they could see on the other side, and somebody else came and pushed it open for them. But I'm seeing it more and more, and at the start of the school year, I just decided, you know what? Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Like, we should go back to the way it was. I hate to say, again, I know I sound like the oldest man on the planet, but what I'm saying is the true essence of sport should be that it teaches you two things. That not every play is designed for you. And not every team is built for you. And if you don't make that team, you either find a different thing that you can improve upon, or you find the thing in that area with that team that needs where you need to improve your game or where they have a void that you can help fulfill as part of that team, and you work a little bit harder. That's the end of my rant, but I'm telling you. Did you see that post I'm talking about, Eddie? Of the 7-year-old kid?
No.
But you know, you've seen things like that, right?
Yeah.
And you coached baseball, right?
Yeah, for a little bit.
Do you still?
Not anymore.
And be honest, I'm not going to be offended. Do you find it any different now than it was, say, 10 years ago?
I don't know. I haven't been around it since, let's see, when would that have been? Last 4 years, probably? Are you talking about the game itself, or are you talking about, like, the handlings of...
Yes, the structures of kids playing it.
To me, it's more like you're taking... More kids are... I don't know if it's kids or if it's parents or it's a mixture of the both that are more interested in trying to get to the travel baseball route sooner than anything else.
Correct. Or the...
And so, like, little leagues are not, having the same number of kids participating in general.
You know, the other thing it does? The other thing it does is it burns kids out faster. Sports was such a great thing in high school because part of it, not for all kids, but for a lot of kids, it teaches the work ethic or the daily routine of things. When you're 35 years old and you're working at a marketing firm or an architecture firm or a law firm, or you're polishing marble floors, whatever it might be, there's a routine to that. You get up every day at 8, you go to work at 9, you get up at 7, you go to work at 8, whatever it might be, Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, whatever your hours are, there's a routine to that. And part of the importance and the significance of a school-sanctioned sport is teaching you routine. Yeah, you might never crack the starting lineup as the left fielder, but you're going to practice every day from 4 until 5:30, and then you get out, and then you got to time manage your homework and everything else in terms of the school aspect of it. And unfortunately, what you're seeing now when you have a kid that's like putting on the cap at 7 years old for his travel baseball team, with the screaming dad that's starting fights with the $12 an hour umpire and getting ejected from the game, that kid at 7, by the time he's 14, he's totally over it. And now at 14, he has entered into a world where he wants his time to be about leisure and relaxation because he's been burnt out by the travel baseball year-round stuff for 7 years before he even enters high school. And now you're reversing the exact pattern that you should be teaching. But we'll get back into the Colts on the other side. the numbers on Keenan Allen and where he can be effective for Daniel Jones and what this does mean for the offense. We will dive deeper into that, and then Kiefer joins us coming up in 15.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Now, interestingly enough, for me, Eddie, sorry.
Derek.
Well, I'm thinking about the fact Derek Schultz and I are going to be at the Dairy Bar tomorrow, 2 o'clock, so sorry about that.
2 o'clock tomorrow, you say?
Correct. I'm going to be at the State Fair tomorrow from 10 until 1, Indiana Thoroughbred Association Governor's Cup, and then right after that I'll be walking over to the Dairy Bar and serving up shakes and grilled cheese at 2. You going to come by?
Maybe. I'll try.
You're going to the fair. Did you say you're going?
I think tomorrow. Not
Okay.
100% sure.
But actually, that song, Video Killed the Radio Star, I'm not saying I'm a radio star, but video created it because I started in TV first, right? TV spit me out, and so ended up on the dark side here with radio. Hey, Jake, travel sports are the only way kids can play from kindergarten through 5th grade, maybe 6th grade. There are no elementary sports. There's Little League. I played Little League. I played Allisonville Christian Church. I still remember, not that anybody cares, but I'll tell you. White Sox, Tigers, Cubs, Giants, Indians, shows how old I am, and Red Sox. Those are all the teams I played for as a kid in Little League. Keenan Allen is a big target, 6'2". And actually last year had better numbers than the year preceding it. 777 yards a year ago. Can you pull up for me, Eddie, if you could, please, Michael Pittman Jr.'s stats from last year with the Colts?
It's going to shock you, Jake. They are like copy and paste, nearly identical.
How many catches for Michael Pittman Jr. in 2025?
Last season, Michael Pittman Jr. had 80 receptions.
81 for Keenan Allen. The number of yards for Michael Pittman Jr.
784 yards.
777 for Keenan Allen. The number of touchdowns for Michael Pittman Jr.
7 touchdowns for Michael Pittman Jr.
4 for Keenan Allen.
47 of the 80 receptions for Michael Pittman Jr. resulted in a first down.
Now, you could say, well, but Allen was in a system he was familiar with. He had long been a Charger and was a multiple Pro Bowl there. Okay, then let's go to when he was with the Bears the year before. In 2024, can you please look up for me Michael Pittman Jr., although Pittman Jr. had the back injury, right?
Yes, in 2024, 69 receptions,
70 for Keenan Allen.
808 yards,
744 for Keenan Allen.
3 touchdowns.
7 touchdowns for Keenan Allen. So this is essentially the natural slide-in statistical replacement for Michael Pittman. And why so long? Why did it take so long? I think a big part of that is because Keenan Allen has earned this right. I don't think we could rule out the fact that Shane Steichen, who has a long history with Keenan Allen from when Shane Steichen was with the Chargers, I mean, they know each other well. One would assume that Keenan Allen looked at the offense of a year ago that the Colts had pre-injury. So when Daniel Jones was rocking and rolling, and their offense was prolific, there's no doubt about it. Proficient, there's no doubt about it. And Keenan Allen probably looked at it and said, you know what, they were 8-2. They were on record-setting pace. They literally were on, like, greatest show on turf, record-setting pace offensively. And Keenan Allen may well have said and decided a long time ago, you know what? I'm good. I don't need camp. It's like Edgerrin James. You know, Edgerrin James, his 2 greatest lines. I mean, the first one was the closest I'm getting to Tokyo's Benihana, and the other is, I might have, only gone to college for 3 years, but I know what voluntary means. And everybody's like, where is Edgerrin James? What is going on with Edgerrin James? And then he shows up for camp, and he's like 5% body fat, and he's unbelievable because his work ethic was unmatched and incredible. And now we know it, right? You can look back now and go, man, people were totally off in their concern about Edgerrin James' work ethic and et cetera. And in the case of Keenan Allen, it is not uncommon for a veteran to just say, you know what, like, I don't need camp because I know the playbook. I know Shane Steichen. I can come in, give me 3 weeks to run through some routes, and I'm good. And that might well be why it took so long for him to be here. But the question now just simply becomes, what exactly will his role be? And I think we can safely say his role will be exactly the role that was Michael Pittman Jr. And Pittman Jr., and I like a lot. I like Michael Pittman a lot. I don't know him well as a person, but from what I did, I liked him. He was at a lot of Pacer games. But I also like that I do think he played hurt a lot. And I like the fact that he never complained about it and went out and just did his job. Now, were his numbers from a production standpoint a little bit misleading? Yes, I think you can say they were. And by that I mean the number of targets, catches. I don't know that he was as integral or as centerpiece to their offense as much as he probably was drawing things towards him a little bit, and that opened things up. But I don't know that he had the most efficient. There are 2 kinds of home run hitters. There are Ozzie Smith home run hitters that hit like 120 in their career, and 118 of them gave the Cardinals a lead. And then there's Royce Clayton that hit 20 a year, and 19 of them came after the 7th inning in a 7-run game. And it feels a little bit like the efficiency of some of Pittman Jr.'s catches and or numbers might have been askew. But I do think that he was a solid pros pro. And I think Keenan Allen, if you look at it statistically, you now have filled that void successfully. And whether or not they were waiting for somebody else to jump a hold and grab that spot and that player didn't do so, and they were desperate, or they knew this was going to be the situation all along, is irrelevant because he's now here. And I would think that allows them to, if everyone's healthy, and that's a big if, we now see a greater representation offensively of what they were a year ago. Zach Kiefer joins us next.
It's Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company. You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
11 o'clock hour is underway here in Indianapolis. And you heard me mention this yesterday. You just heard that spot, but I want to emphasize this again. It's important to all of us in central Indiana, certainly at these radio stations, each of us kind of maybe for our own different areas of connection. I mentioned yesterday, I don't need to go over it all again, but, for me, Ravenswood is, there are quarries all around them parts, I will say, but my dad, my uncle, my cousins, I have 3 cousins whose homes were devastated due to the flooding in Ravenswood. This radio station, along with all of our sister stations at Radio 1 Indianapolis, along with our friends at Fox 59 and CBS 4, are joining the American Red Cross. You just heard that mentioned, but I want to mention it again, for the disaster relief. And there are so many things that are important, between shelter, meals, supplies. You're talking about people who literally have seen multiple feet of water rush through their home, and I can only imagine the mental and physical task, the toll, the challenge of trying to put that all back together again, replace things, inventory what you lost and didn't lose. Right now at 1075thefan.com, that is the station website. We're helping in the heartland. Our stations, our community, all standing together. We would love for you to go to our website, see right there where you can help out with the American Red Cross, help our efforts in simply pulling everybody together to help those who have been affected by the floods that took place. And fortunately today, hopefully this offers some reprieve, the weather itself and what has been a really tumultuous last week to 10 days here in central Indiana. And so what do I say about Hoosier hospitality? It's more than just making sure that guests of the state of Indiana are comfortable here. Hoosier hospitality, to an extent, is about looking out for each other. And that's what we continue and hope to do even more so. Joining us now on the Suave Men's 2-in-1 Hotline, he is with The Athletic, and of course, no stranger to this program. Zach Kiefer joining us on the show. Zach, you had a really interesting column that I read about, and I touched on it earlier, but I wanted you to kind of expand upon it. The whole NIL era, I think it's so fascinating because it somewhat leaves players out in the cold because you see guys that are like, hey, the guy I used to play against in high school, he got his by transferring, so I'm going to throw my name in the portal. And then all of a sudden, maybe they get left out in the cold. There's that element of it. But you wrote a really interesting column of something that I never really thought about, and that is, as we get into this gray, murky area, this is also kind of diluting the legitimacy of the representation of these players. Is that a fair way to kind of summarize what it is that you wrote about?
Yeah, Jake. I mean, gray area, murky, like a lot of people we talked to called it the Wild Wild West. And this is something, as you kind of alluded to, that not a lot of people think about. But behind the scenes, I use the word crisis. It feels like that. Behind the scenes, all these college players are not able to make money, name, image, and likeness, but also through the revenue sharing straight from the schools. And so they're getting representation. And there's no jurisdiction. It's an unfettered market, and it's absolute chaos right now. And of course, the NFL agents are ticked off because these NIL agents, the guys that are representing college players, there's no certification, there's no requirements, there's no official process like there is in the NFL. So it's crazy right now. And some of the stories we heard, it's not that surprising because we're so used to this with this current state of college football. But it's wild. I mean, we heard that agents would basically reach out to a school and be like, here's all the players that I have that are available right now before the transfer portal opens. And one of the school GMs was like, wait a minute, that's one of our guys. Like, he didn't even tell me he was transferring. So chaos just reigns. It's unpredictable. It's not regulated by the NCAA at all. One of the players I talked to basically said the NCAA just puts their hands up and says, you guys wanted to get paid, you guys figure it out. That's kind of where we are right now.
And with that, Zach, and I'm going to give a really bad analogy, but I know that will shock you, right? We have enough. Thank you. That's our bad analogy sound. Maybe this is even a dangerous or murky area for me to go into, Zach. But, and this happens with you as well, okay? You are a professional award-winning, talented writer for The Athletic. I'm neither of those two things, but I'm a professional broadcaster on a radio station. We live in a world now where everybody can have their own website. Everybody can have their own podcast. And there was a time where you and I could kind of roll our eyes at that and say, yeah, but that'll never gain traction because there's a million of them out there and you're not making, there's no money to be made. Well, now that people are, then all of a sudden what we once deemed as being like flattering because people were trying to mimic what we do for a living, they're now doing that for a living too in their own capacities. And so you kind of got to be aware of it, right? Is there an element to agents feeling the same way right now about these younger guys, these friends of a friend that are representing through NIL, where it's like, yeah, but they're not legitimate agents. They don't know the nuances of all of this. And then they're like, wait a minute, but they don't need to know the nuances because there are no rules to follow. And now, boom, the hopper has more in there of what was once deemed illegitimate is in fact legitimate. Is there some truth to that?
Yeah, I think both things are true at the same time. Certainly, there is resentment in the NFL world, and my phone will back that up based on the responses I got yesterday, both from NFL agents and then otherwise. There is a resentment that these guys don't know what they're doing. I mean, the quotes are in there, and the quotes are spicy. You read them. It's in my story that's up at The Athletic with my colleague, Adam Kilgore. But there's also this fake it till you make it vibe with
Right.
the NIL agents. And to your point, to your question, are the NFL agents being threatened by this new way of business? Absolutely. But the kicker quote is everything, right? Who's supposed to follow the rules when nobody's ever followed the rules in the first place? So that's a bigger, like 30,000 foot view of where college sports is right now and has been. I think we all agree that college athletes should be compensated for the value they bring to the institution, right? But the reality is this one agency that we focused on, it kind of makes you feel a little slimy, right? So these kids are 29 years old. He founded this company 5 years ago. And one of the things they do to entice players to sign with them is give them a piece of jewelry from this famous jeweler in Houston that all the athletes love. This piece of jewelry can be $25,000, $50,000. Now, a lot of the athletes assume, hey, this is great. I'm getting a free piece of jewelry. It's not free. At the end of the contract, the agency bills the player for the jewelry or basically takes it back. And they're like, hey, we're just teaching them not to waste their money on stuff. But man, there's a slippery slope. There's always been a slippery slope with college athletics, but it just feels a little fishy. It feels a little slimy. And maybe legislators are going to get through this in the next couple of months, in the next couple of years, and regulate the college football world a little bit more. But right now, it's completely unregulated. It's crazy. And these guys are like pitching players that aren't even looking to transfer. They're flooding DMs of high school players. One agent told me it felt like going to the bar and trying to pick up a 17-year-old girl. He's like, it just feels really wrong. But again, these guys are like signing $100,000 contracts for mid-level players in college football. And if you get, like Jake, think about this, NFL agents get 3%. That's mandated by the NFLPA. That's a good chunk if it's a good contract, 3%, nothing to laugh at. These guys are charging these kids up to 20% in college. That's an enormous sum of money, and that's an enormous cut that they're taking. It's just lawlessness right now, and a lot of people are winning and a lot of people are losing.
And it's like anything else, Zach, and you tell me if this is – Zach Kiefer's my guest from The Athletic. He's on the Schwab Men's 2-in-1 hotline. There's – like anything else, you have your 1%, right? Then you got your middle, probably like 40%. Maybe it's a bigger number than that. And then you have your lower class that is overextending themselves, trying to live like the 1%. And I think in athletics, there's a great truth to that. One of the stories, in my opinion, that's as old as time is you have the guy at a big university that was a fairly decent varsity suburban high school player that goes to college, lives the frat life, sits next to in 100 level sociology class the kid that is the elite 1% athlete. And now all of a sudden, that's his connection. That's his ticket into big-time athletics that he always dreamed of being able to play, wasn't good enough. But now he's part of the cool kids club, right? And he can bring that athlete in by enticing him with bringing him to the big frat party and whatever else. Now what we're seeing, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but what we're seeing now is that kid not just enticing that kid to the frat party, but also saying, I'll represent you and get you a bag at your next school, and I'll convince them, and all you owe me is 20% of it. And now you're getting into this area where it's, in fact, too many kids are losing out on that gamble, and they're being taken advantage of. Fair summary?
Yeah. I mean, Jacob Piasecki, he runs this A&P sports agency, and he didn't know about all this money that was coming into college sports in terms of coming into college sports and going to the athletes for the first time, right? 3, 4, 5 years ago, as this all started to change, this new world. And his first quote, and he's quoted in the article saying this, I see dollar signs. Like, that is the story you just told, right? Not just for this player who's going to get paid eventually anyway, but for him. And so they recruit these guys. And the reality is, so many of these guys are hitting the portal so they can renegotiate their contracts every year. If a player signs with Notre Dame without an agent, gets $100,000 for the season, the next year he can just enter the portal and negotiate a new deal. And then the player's agent gets 20% of that. And you really didn't do anything, right? Maybe you surveyed the landscape, but you're staying at the same school. Zen Melchowski is a lineman who played for Ohio State and Indiana, and he told me a perfect story. So this kid won 2 national championships the last 2 years, right? What a run. Very good lineman. Knew he wasn't going to go to the NFL. But during his time at Ohio State, they're obviously winning every year. His agency is like, you need to transfer. You need to go get some money. He's like, I don't want to transfer. Like, I want to help the Buckeyes win a national championship. And they're like, you should transfer. And he's like, no, I'm going to fire you. So he stays. He wins the national title 2 years ago at Ohio State, finds new representation, starts looking in the portal, and actually takes less money to go to Indiana. He felt like it was the best fit. He felt like it was the best team, Cignetti, all that. Wins another national championship. But he's a cautionary tale. I mean, look at this. This is a mid-level offensive lineman on 2 very good teams for sure. But imagine what it's like for the big names that enter the portal. Imagine the DMs they get. Imagine the leeches lurching onto them in these situations. And I mean, in the story, there's one situation where Jacob messages a player and says, hey man, I love your game. Like, can you hop on a call in the next couple of days? And he's like, if he calls me back, I'll watch his tape. Like, he didn't even watch his tape before he made this request to talk to this player. And it just feels dirty in some regards, because some agents are good. Some of them simply do not have the player's best interest at heart.
Now, Zach Kiefer is my guest. I do want to talk NFL with you, but let me ask you this, and I'm going to use an example that a lot of listeners are going to think I'm using only because it's a school that I've followed for a long time, but that's not the case. Dabo Swinney at Clemson, he's rocking and rolling, right? He's winning national championships. They're undefeated. They're literally 5 stars are recruiting Clemson, not the vice versa. And then everything changes because the portal comes along in NIL, and Dabo Swinney says, I'm not getting involved with it. I'm not going to do portal stuff. We're not going to take a bunch of players from the portal. And they instantly get caught hanging out to dry in the right lane, and everybody blows by them. And they've used a little of the portal, but not a lot, right? So is it possible, and I'm only using Dabo Swinney as an example because it's the one that most people are familiar with, and you can tangibly see the difference of what happened to Clemson. Is it possible that this is going to then come back to where there's going to be maybe even a stricter regulation, and Clemson is going to weather that storm and be almost more prepared for the new lifestyle once heavy clamping comes down, because they never wavered away from it and became too reliant the other way? Or, in fact, are schools like Clemson forever hung out to dry?
I don't think it's either or. I mean, you go to Cignetti's money quote, right? Cignetti says, adapt or die. He adapted as well as anybody. You know the story. Everybody knows the story. They just won the national championship with a team built on transfers for the most part. Michigan in basketball started 5 different players that wasn't at the team the year before. It is the current state of college sports. If you don't If you don't accept it, you're going to be left behind. Clemson's a decent example. The reality is the Protect College Sports Act, which is stuck in Congress right now, I think at some point will pass. There is bipartisan backing, which is a very rare thing these days. I think there will be some regulation. When it comes to our story on The Athletic, how does that impact agents? They're going to have to regulate this some way, because a lot of these families, and I've talked to a lot of agents about this, a lot of these families are not in a place to navigate the transfer portal and the financial implications of these situations at this particular stage. These kids are I talked to one agent who's like flooding the DMs of the top 100 high school players in the country. I mean, think about it, Jake. When you were 17 years old and you're being asked, hey, do you want $100,000? It's legal, it's above board, and it's not even a check. It's just a wire transfer now. It's so fast, it's so easy, and it's really dangerous. So a lot of these families, what I've been told, need the financial advice of an agent to walk them through all the intricacies of this system. Now, some of them want nothing to do with it. Plenty of them do. But a lot of these guys are treating agents as yearly auditions, right? They hire an agent, they get him the deal, they fire the agent, they try to get a better deal with less of a cut from the agent. So it's just all there's just no jurisdiction. There's no playbook. Like I said at the beginning, it feels like the Wild Wild West. This Protect College Sports Act is designed. There's a clause in it about agents. They're trying to regulate it. The NFL agents are pissed. The college agents are loving it because they're getting their money. They're maximizing their talents. And like you said, the opening part of the story, I mean, these guys are standing on a football field saying the NFL agents could never do what we do.
Right. Zach, you obviously, you travel around now. You covered the Colts for a long time locally with the Star before you went to the Athletic, and then you became the national writer for the Athletic. So I'm curious of this. If you look right now at the preseason college football top 25 is out. Indiana, I think, is 6th, right? Preseason polls are kind of irrelevant, but nonetheless, for the sake of this exercise, in the National Football League right now, in terms of the amount of chatter that you hear from other teams, the respect level they have for the Colts, how good they expect or bad they expect the Colts to be, whichever it may be, who is the college football equivalent in terms of relevance, expectation of competitiveness, and amount of chatter about them? The Colts college football program is who?
Man, you're putting me on the spot. So let's break down what's the Colts' reputation right now, right? They draft pretty well. They maybe kind of have the quarterback thing figured out. They got a pretty sharp offensive coach. The GM seems to be entering a year where something's going to happen. Even in Ballard's own words, he's denying a contract extension. Stable ownership, really good fans. Success they're still chasing and probably are always going to chase. It felt like they were getting closer during the Andrew Luck days of recapturing that Peyton Manning level of success. But it feels like a pipe dream right now to try and replicate that type of thing. Oh, man, you're putting me on the spot here, Jake.
Iowa?
What's Iowa's peak in college football?
9-3, 10-2, and
yeah,
the Outback
Orange Bowl champs.
Yeah.
I did a story on Bob Sanders and what happened to him a couple years ago and talked to Kirk Ferentz about it. And yeah, I mean, they were really good, 9-3. They went to the Orange Bowl and smacked whoever they played. And that was about the peak that they reached. Really good fan base. But I don't think that does the Colts enough justice. And I mean the Peyton Manning Colts. I think if you think about the history, it might, I mean, this is maybe a stretch, but Nebraska?
I was going to say Florida State.
Yeah. At their peak, they were the best. At their peak, they were really good. I don't think I've ever seen a talent like Peter Warwick on the field.
Yeah, he's good, man.
Good a couple years ago, fell off, trying to figure out what they're doing with their coach. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what's the vibe around the Colts right now? Like, no one brings it up to me anymore. It just doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of juice.
See, that's what I mean. That was where I was going with that. Is it feels like, obviously here we talk about him, Zach, but I just don't imagine that when 18 NFL guys are sitting around the JW Marriott in Houston at some convention that they're talking about the Colts.
And again, that also doesn't matter. I'm a national writer. I could go up to Westfield any day I needed to and talk to the Colts and talk to Ballard and Steichen and see what's going on. But there hasn't been a big pull. I've been pulled other places. Now that's the story. That's what we're covering. But that doesn't mean the Colts are not going to be good this year.
Right.
You know, I mean, Daniel Jones is back. That's great. They were 8-2 last year. They were rolling, and there wasn't a lot of juice last year. It was mainly about the quarterback competition. So again, from our seat, it doesn't really matter what we think of this team right now. That's why I'm not going to overreact to all this.
What's the
preseason
national
nonsense.
perception of Keenan Allen? Was this a coup for the Colts, or was this a player that there wasn't a lot of nibble elsewhere from people trying to get him?
I'm curious about the latter part of your question. I love the move. They need the move. But I was listening to KB and James earlier today. What does the move say about what the Colts think of their team right now?
Right.
This gives me worry about Alec Pierce, right? So every time a team makes a move, whether it's right now or March in free agency, they're telling you something. They're telling you what they think of their team right now. What does this say about Alec Pierce? He was supposed to be back within a week or 2 or 3 when we started training camp. That's about right now. I don't think week 1 is probably going to happen. I mean, just based on like everything I've done over the years covering players coming back from injury, you know, do you want Alec Pierce out there on a week of practice before they play the first game? Probably not. I'm not saying anything's gone wrong, but it just seems like he'd be on the field right now if he was getting ready for week 1. We do have a couple weeks, sure. But what do you think they do with Richardson? Like if I'm the Colts, I'm keeping Richardson on the team. I'm putting a package in. I'm running him on that Jacoby Brissett package from a couple of years ago when Luck was coming back from the injury. I'm using Richardson's talents. And if that means his legs, that means his legs.
Zach, I think here are the 2 things I would say about that. Number 1, when it comes to the Keenan Allen signing, you tell me if you disagree. To me, and all of this is irrelevant because he's here now, right? But it means one of 3 things. It means either they targeted that as soon as Pittman Jr. was traded and they said, you know what, we're probably going to get Keenan Allen and we go as is, and he didn't want to go through camp. That's cool. Or it means number 2, they said, we'll see if one of our young guys jumps up, as I mentioned earlier, and tries to figure out how to grab that tow rope on the bunny hill and get pulled along, and here's an opportunity, and none of them figured out how to grab the rope, and so they said, well, we got to do something because nobody stepped up. Or number 3, they have concern about Alec Pierce. It's one of those 3. I don't think it's the third. I think it's probably the first where they knew all along this was the possibility. But the bottom line is he's here now. And then you could look at it the other way with Anthony Richardson and say the fact that Richardson is still here, how much of that is because Riley Leonard has not seized that opportunity? How much of it is that?
How much of that is, Jake, that they haven't gotten an offer that's worth thinking about?
I mean, that's the biggest with Anthony Richardson. As I said, they had the car in the front yard, right? And it was $5,000, 75,000 miles, blows cold air. And then it was make an offer. You know, then it was best offer, then it was make an offer, and then it was if you have actually a device that can tow it off the yard, but nobody's called, right?
I mean, Jake, before the draft, Jim Irsay said we would have taken him number 1 if we were picking number 1. When they drafted him, 2 days later, Richardson sat in Irsay's office, and Irsay said, if you play this right, you could make $1 billion.
Right.
$1 billion with the B. Now, I know that's old news, but it's just crazy to think that 4 years in, this is where we're at. Like you said, the metaphor being, hey, 7,500 may or may not work. The market just doesn't seem to exist right now. And I thought there would be a quarterback injury during camp somewhere that sort of stirred this up. But again, like Ed Dodds, the assistant GM, said the other day, you got to think about your own team first. And I think Riley Leonard's probably part of it, but it doesn't sound like Anthony Richardson has had a particularly strong camp. It doesn't sound like he's had a good camp at all. A lot of turnovers, a lot of fumbles, missed throws, etc. Again, he's not a great camp player.
I think he's gotten a 72, but Riley Leonard has a 68. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it feels to me. But
yeah, and it's somewhat similar to what you talked about a minute ago with the wide receiver. So they want somebody to step up so they don't have to sign Keenan Allen August 18th, right? Well, that guy was probably Ashton Doolin. Now, I'm not there every day like the other reporters, but Doolin's also one of their best special teamers. Ballard loves Doolin, and Doolin's got some pop, right? He's got some speed. He can make those explosive plays that Shane loves. But again, he's been hurt a lot. So you bring in Keenan Allen, you feel a little bit better. You still don't have a guy who can take the top off the defense until Pierce comes back, and that's a problem. But again, I mean, I'm going to die on this hill, but I'm keeping Richardson. I don't care about the trade request. I'm thinking about the Colts and what's best for them. I'm putting in a package for him on short yardage, on QB sneaks, on bootlegs, and I'm using the hell out of his talent because he's still got a lot of talent. We saw it in New England last week, and he's still on the team. Use him and protect Daniel Jones as much as you can.
Lastly, Zach, I want to know because we have you on a Zoom here. It looks like you're inside of a practice facility. That might actually be a hotel room or your office. I don't know. But what is the next thing you're working on, or where do we find you as we're talking to you?
Yeah, not to pimp my own work, but I had a story come out last week with two colleagues that is the wildest thing I've done since I wrote about the New York City mobster who hid in Indianapolis for a decade. I don't know if you remember this one,
Yep.
but this one, the real quick summation is an NFL agent was going to run the Seattle Seahawks. Then his business rival was found murdered with a crossbow. There were two trials. There's a lot that we uncovered in our reporting that didn't show up in the trials. Just an unbelievable story, in my opinion, that I feel like should be like a Netflix documentary. I'm in Cincinnati on Thursday for Bears Bengals, working on a Joe Burrow story. And then I also have a profile of Stephen Jones, the man who will, at some point, run the most valuable sports franchise on the planet. And the reporting I did from talking to a lot of people around the league, he's very, very different from his father, Jerry Jones. So got to talk to him a lot over the spring and learned a lot. So bouncing around football and otherwise, lots of good stuff coming up.
Zach, appreciate the time as always. Safe travels at all the places you go, and we will be reading along in The Athletic. Appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, Jay. Thank guys.
All right, Zach Kiefer joining us on the Swab Men's 2-in-1 hotline. A lot of good stuff there. And in particular, the part about, Keenan Allen and Richardson, for that matter. Yesterday I'm at the gym, and a guy comes up, and he's like, look, man, you gave me bad info. You said you didn't think Richardson would be on the roster. And I agree. One thing that jumped out there of what Zach said that I want to get into because I agree with him in regards to the Colts quarterback situation. We talk so much about receiver, quarterback as well. We'll do it next.
This is Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So yesterday, as I mentioned, I was at my gym, mostly to lay out by the pool. And a guy, really nice dude, is a big Notre Dame guy. He's a graduate of Notre Dame. And so therefore, I totally understand his hope or enthusiasm for Riley Leonard as a quarterback that fits in with the Colts. And I don't recall this, but apparently at some point he had asked me, and there's no reason to believe this would not have been the case. I mean, he stops me in the middle of the gym and goes, "Well, you gave me some bad intel." I thought, "Oh, okay." Not uncommon for me, probably. And he says, you told me you did not think Anthony Richardson would be on the roster, which is true. I probably did say, I don't recall specifically saying that to him in the gym, but we talk a lot about football and sports and whatnot. And so I said, you know what? Yeah, things they're fluid in the NFL. That's the way it works. But yes, it is true to say that was my assumption. And I think a number of things worked out. And I still believe this. I 100% believe this. As sure as the fact that my name is Jake Query, I believe this. I believe that Shane Steichen does not have confidence in Anthony Richardson. I believe that Shane Steichen is probably like anybody else intrigued by, impressed by the physical traits of Anthony Richardson. And I believe that Shane Steichen, when assessing Anthony Richardson, did not take long to conclude that he could not win with Anthony Richardson processing his offense. Now, that is not to say, and in any way, shape, or form, indict Anthony Richardson's intellect. It has nothing to do with intelligence. Because I think it more just has to do with wavelength. Wavelength. I'm not saying I'm an intelligent person, but I don't think that I'm even though in some areas I'm a moron. But I'm the first to admit, when I played basketball growing up, it's the only sport where I had a natural, just duck to water type feel about it. And I could anticipate things like an open gym and things like that, or playing with my buddies in backyard pickup basketball. I had a natural feel for where I could move and whatever else. But when it came to playing within an offense, I still remember we ran two offenses, the flex offense and the Tennessee. The Tennessee, I had no idea. I never could learn that offense. I had free-flowing feel for the game of basketball, but within the parameter of an offense, I could never remember. I couldn't process fast enough where I was supposed to go, what I was supposed to do. Greg Black, Cameron McDaniel, Kai Steffi, Matt Klein, those guys, they got the ball. They knew exactly where they were supposed to cut, where the ball was supposed to rotate, everything. I could not grasp it. Wasn't a lack of intellect. It was just, for whatever reason, my brain couldn't process, because in a natural free-flowing state, I could do it. But once you try to put everything in a jar, it was difficult for me, for my brain. And I think Richardson, to a great extent, is that. I think Anthony Richardson, for so long, was so and is still so physically gifted that he never necessarily had to, learn a system inside the jar, because he just could free flow it. And then in addition to that, we all have What do you say about a couple that's been around and been together forever? You know, they can just complete each other's sentences. Just look at the two of them. The other one knows exactly what the other one's thinking. One knows what the other one's thinking. And I think for Shane Steichen, as an offensive guru in terms of his coaching and his playbook and the depths in which he wants to run things, I think there is an element of he wants somebody that's able to finish his sentences. He wants somebody that he can look with an eye glance and realize we need to get out of that play and into this play and do and have and trust. That's probably the bigger thing is trust. When I played basketball, I would imagine that the coaches, yes, there were times where if I got the ball in the wing, my natural free flow was that I knew how to get to the basket. But coaches had to trust that the 5 players they had on the floor could operate and execute what it was that they designed to be effective against the defense we were facing. And they knew a Cameron McDaniel, Kai Steffi, Matt Klein, Tony Nibbs, Greg Black could naturally do that because they instinctively could operate what we worked on in practice inside the jar. And I couldn't necessarily do that. And so I kept a lot of stats. But the Anthony Richardson, I think Shane Steichen wants a quarterback that can just run through and do the quick process, to flip through his head of the chart and just know instinctively if Steichen's not able to radio a play in, I need somebody that is able to vibe off and finish what I'm thinking right there. And he immediately recognized that was Daniel Jones and not Anthony Richardson. But now, once Richardson requested the trade and once the Colts got into a situation of, okay, Daniel Jones, we know he's healthy. That's our guy. Now we've got to figure out who the backup is. And I think the real key here are 2 things. One of which Kevin Bowen talked about with us on Friday. And I think it's the ultimate insight into all of it. In today's NFL, you can carry 3 quarterbacks, but you have to designate one of them as the emergency quarterback going into a game. And that emergency quarterback can only take snaps if there is attrition before him in the game itself by NFL rules. So you could keep Richardson and say, we're just keeping him as our number 3 emergency quarterback. But if you are intrigued enough by him to run short yardage, 3rd down, or 4th and goal, whatever it may be, sets that utilize his skill set, his read option, his ability to run the football, his short yardage ability to gain yards. If you want to utilize, even if it's 4 plays a game, if you want to utilize that skill set out of Anthony Richardson, you cannot do so by bringing him into a game as your number 3 guy. He has to be designated as your backup. Otherwise, he's not going to get on the field unless there's attrition before him. So if you have any desire to use him in a spot set, he has to be your backup as opposed to your 3. In addition to that, I think it is very safe to say that Riley Leonard hasn't shown enough yet of Shane Steichen's ability to feel comfortable with that Rolodex, the same thing as Richardson. He's not finishing Steichen's sentences just yet. And so, therefore, there isn't a lot that he brings to the table that offsets what Richardson did not. If Richardson had this wonderful skill set you could use in sparing situations, but that was offset by the fact that he just couldn't come in and immediately compute and look over and make a read and get out of a bad play into a good play. If Riley Leonard had the ability to instantly do that, that might offset and keep him as the number 2, and you say, hey, Riley Leonard could run. He did some things at Notre Dame. They didn't pass the ball a lot. They weren't a deep ball team. We could, except for that, Richardson's physical attribute is a tick enough ahead of Riley Leonard that if Riley Leonard's computing acumen is not offsetting that, then the decision is made. And I think that's where they are. That combined with, as Zach mentioned, and I think this is probably the other overriding point here, I just don't think the phone rang. And we haven't seen Eddie, knock on wood, because you don't hope it for anybody. Typically by this time of year, we have seen a quarterback go down somewhere where you get like the big headline of like, oh my gosh, non-contact injury for, I'm not going to say any names.
We've had one. But this player is only going to be out a handful of weeks, and he would be ready to be a backup in week 1.
So this was
the first week of September.
I know that I know this, but this is a starter?
No. It's a backup quarterback.
So a backup that went down, but is
Yes.
but again, I'm talking about like the year-ending injury, like the one where you're like, okay, that guy's out for the year. Now you've got to immediately pick up the phone.
Correct. Yeah.
That hasn't happened anywhere.
No. We've had just the one backup, unquestionable backup, have a knee sprain, and he is out the rest of preseason
And who's
training
that?
camp. Marcus Mariota.
He's been everywhere.
He is with the Commanders.
I didn't know that. He's been there. How long's he been there? Is he in year 2 there?
2 or 3.
3? Yeah.
2 or 3, yeah.
And all of this is happening, by the way, while the guy that he's working underneath is still furiously calling LSU trying to get his number back, right?
Yes. Oh, I love all the memes.
Speaking of numbers, weird one for Indiana
hold on,
football.
Jake. You can't
Yes, sir?
break yet. It's 11:45. Out of respect for Jaden Daniels, you have to wait till 11:46.
Fair enough.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Okay, so the college football rankings are out, the preseason rankings, which are like the most – it's great fodder. People get all bent out of shape about it. And I guess now it has, in the quote-unquote old days, we would get worked up because only so many teams made initially the BCS and then the college football playoff. And it was like, well, this is ridiculous because so much of it is biased on where you're starting in terms of the rankings. And now, because the playoffs are expanding, maybe there's less emphasis on that. And so you don't necessarily need to do the proverbial, they should wait until week 5 or, whatever else. But let me give you, we'll go in groups here, okay? The top 10, I'm going to tell you, and then, Eddie, you stop me when you disagree with typically and traditionally how these teams are going to end up, okay?
Okay.
Ohio State, loaded, tons of offense. If their head coach gets away from his fascination with the jet sweep and actually just starts throwing to the receivers that are all going to be playing on Sundays, going to be very difficult.
And the just for men, yeah, get away from that as well.
Yeah. His wife says that's all au naturel. Right?
Sure, yeah.
Or
you can't tell me that, and it's all natural when it's that jet black.
Yeah, I would agree. Like the jet sweep that he loves. Oregon, high flying, going to score a ton of points, going to beat people like 55-3 for the first 10 weeks of the year, and then have a key game late where they wet themselves. Georgia, going to be really good, going to be very stout, have a ton of guys defensively that people talk about their speed, and
Their
going
speed
to
or their
lose.
speeding?
What's that? Very good point. Yes. Very good point. They have lots of problems with that. And they're going to lose 2 games inexplicably, but still be in the hunt because people are going to talk about how stacked their schedule is.
And they're in the SEC.
Hence the latter part, right? Their schedules.
It doesn't have to pertain to the schedule, just the fact that they're in.
But
that
everybody's
conference, yeah.
correct because everybody's going to say the SEC's loaded. Okay,
Yeah.
Notre Dame. Loaded, love their head coach, not going to make many mistakes. Unfortunately, they don't really have cupcakes on the schedule, but they don't necessarily have like a 1-2 heavy hit punch and people are going to hold the non-conference thing against them, but they get in the playoffs.
Well, they got the Hurricanes and the Mustangs and the Cougars, all 3 ranked in the top 20.
Do they have them back to back to back?
No. So they've got BYU, then Navy, then Miami, Boston College, then SMU.
Texas. Everybody going to talk about Arch Manning, and they're going to lose 2 games early on, and people are going to wonder what's going on, but they're still going to be in the conversation because they're Texas.
I actually really like the outlook for both Notre Dame and Texas this year, Jake. I think they're going to be really good.
I'll skip Indiana. We'll come back to it. Miami, same thing as basically Notre Dame. Playing in the ACC schedule, going to have plenty of opportunity to stockpile a bunch of wins. A year ago, give them credit, put it together when it mattered most, and we're playing their best football at the end of the year.
Yeah, can Darian Mensah, pick up where Carson Beck left off? This is a big question that I've got with them.
Now we got back-to-back twins.
Really?
Yep. We've got the Minnesota baseball team. We've got the Olsons. We've got the Love brothers, Love Heating and Air. By that, I mean twins. Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Every year. Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Every year. Here we go. This is the year. Man, look how good they are. 8-0, 9-0. And then every time they get a big-time marquee matchup, here it is. They're ranked 1 and 2 in the college football playoff rankings, or they're ranked 1 and 2 going back to the BCS rankings. Ole Miss, maybe not so much. They're more of a Johnny-come-lately impersonator of Texas A&M. But Texas A&M, every single year, this is the team. This is the year. Bonfire, 12th man, 8-0, unbelievable. Lose 3 or 4. Nobody hates Thanksgiving more than Texas A&M because that's when the beginning of the end begins. And I'll put Ole Miss in the same category. Oklahoma.
Do you think they love Susie? Or no, not Susie. The Charlie Brown meme?
Oh, the Great Pumpkin?
No.
Oh, the football?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I thought you meant the Great Pumpkin because once Halloween and Thanksgiving, actually more Thanksgiving, with Franklin oddly sitting at the other side of the table, which nobody seemed to notice back then, which is really weird. But Lucy holding the football and taking it away from Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Yes. That is absolutely Texas A&M football in a nutshell. Oklahoma blowing everybody out, winning games 56-10, then getting into Big 12 play. Nobody plays defense, winning regularly 56-45, 56-52. Then they go up against Baylor, and they get beat 63-42, and the wheels start coming off.
Mm-hmm.
LSU, see Ole Miss, but this time just take their coach and put him at LSU. Texas Tech, see what I just said about Oklahoma, winning every game like 63-56. Then the rest of the top 20 or top 25, Alabama, loaded with athletes, obviously, new quarterback, so maybe some question mark there. USC, see what I said about Alabama. BYU, Michigan, really? I mean, new coach. Washington, Penn State, SMU, Tennessee, Utah, Iowa, Houston, Louisville, and Missouri. The last four of those, Iowa, Houston, Louisville, Missouri, it's like, well, we got to come up with 25, right?
And just on the outside, the Clemson Tigers.
First time since 12 that they have started the year unranked.
Wow, year 12?
That's right.
Wow. What, 2014 consecutive years?
New receiver for the Colts in Keenan Allen. Stephen Holder to help break it down next.
It's Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company. You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Noon hour underway. Good afternoon to you on a gorgeous Tuesday. Jake Query along with Eddie Garrison. You just heard, by the way, and I want to mention this again. You know, the weather outside right now is great. I mean, it's beautiful out. The sun's out, thank goodness. I think it's going to be a little more overcast later today. But, and hopefully that will offer some reprieve here with the flooding. It is amazing. Yesterday I saw along the Monon the collection of debris from the river itself is amazing. And that offers glimpse into just how powerful and destructive the water can be. And, you know, you heard, and I want to mention it again, on our station website, 1075thefan.com, is right there where you can help out. You can look over how you can make a donation for, you know, supplies and helping out. And again, I've gone through Ravenswood. I've seen it. The folks that are just now beginning the cleanup, everything from, you know, figuring out how to replace the most basic of needs, sanitary items, certainly the money to help rebuild and the cleanup alone, all of it. There is so much that is needed, so much help that needs to be extended. And so the Red Cross helping out with that, and we at this radio station, along with all of the others here at Radio 1 Indianapolis, along with our friends at Fox 59 and CBS 4, are joining the Red Cross in that effort. You can find out all of that information, make a donation, even if it's $1. Anything you can do to help out at 1075thefan.com is the website. The big news yesterday in terms of the National Football League is that I think that we knew that it was on the cusp. We didn't know exactly how imminent it would be, but it has now happened. Keenan Allen is going to be an Indianapolis Colt, and it really is a fascinating dynamic to look at Keenan Allen's receiving numbers. 777 yards, I think, a year ago, slightly a tick either right below or above that the year before with Chicago, but almost, Eddie and I did it earlier, almost identical to those numbers of Michael Pittman Jr. when he was with the Colts. So seemingly they just slot in the guy, and their offense is very similar to what they had from the production standpoint of Pittman a year ago. Joining us now on the Swab Men's 2-in-1 hotline, ESPN.com is where you can read and see his work. Stephen Holder joining us on the show. And Stephen is on the Zoom with us, and he's not wearing a hat. So, again, you can tell kind of the cone head, to be honest with you. Isn't that right, Stephen?
Again with this? Really?
I'm just saying.
I just got over it, and you're right back to it. See?
No, you look fantastic. You know, as I said, Stephen, and I don't say this with every guest, but in this case, what you're getting on the guests on the Zoom here, if you're watching us online, is you are seeing men 2-in-1 suave. I mean, this is the definition of suave, right?
I suppose. I mean, yeah, it takes me a little less time to get ready than you do, I bet.
Well,
a little less hair product.
I use the Suave Men's 2-in-1 product, and it makes it that much faster. But, Stephen, let's begin with this. So, you know, like this, right? In Pittman and Keenan Allen, theoretically, it is almost replica, right? You just place in. What does Allen do differently, or what does Pittman do differently? In other words, if you were to look at last year's offense, is this in fact just plug and play, and theoretically it looks the same now?
I think somewhat, yeah. I do. Now I do think that Allen probably shouldn't expect the same volume of targets in this offense than he has had in recent years in LA and Chicago. I don't think you're going to see that level of targeting for him, because you know they have an established sort of pecking order with what they have, and they have vowed to kind of get those guys really involved. Tyler Warren is here, so that the presence of Warren changes that. They really want to get Josh Downs going. So, and I just think fundamentally, Shane Steichen, last year being a little bit of the exception, Shane Steichen really does want to spread the ball around as much as possible. So I don't think it'll look exactly the same, but I think his role on the surface will be similar to that of Pittman. Yes, tough catches, middle of the field, slants, digs, the stuff that a big body, tough guy can do. And that's frankly what they were missing. And this suits that need perfectly.
Okay, Stephen, I spelled out earlier, and I'm going to read them off to you, and I want you to pick which one it is or add the Stephen Holder different element that I overlooked, okay? And this is a little bit water under the bridge because he's here now, right? But in terms of the delay on Keenan Allen signing, okay? And I'm speaking of it from a Colts standpoint. Number one, they had a pretty good idea this is who it was going to be from the get-go. When Pittman was traded, they thought, well, Keenan Allen eventually will be here, and so we're good to go in that regard. Or number two, they wanted to give opportunity for one of their younger receivers or less experienced guys or one of the veterans they signed to reach out and grab a hold of that position, and they just determined through camp that no one has separated themselves enough. Or number three, it tips the hand a little bit into an adjustment of timeline with Alec Pierce. Or four, a different one that I didn't mention.
Okay, so those are good options. I would say overwhelmingly number one. And I know this because I've talked to Shane Steichen about Keenan Allen repeatedly. I mean, I was asked to keep that close to the vest, so it puts you in a tough spot, right? So like we talk about this every week, and I'm like, they're gonna sign him. But at the same time, it hadn't happened, right? So part of me is like, okay, I know that's what you guys said you were planning to do, but you haven't done it, right? So I was starting to wonder, like, what the hell are they doing, right? And what is the holdup? But I would just say, just generally speaking, Shane Steichen and Keenan Allen have been conversing literally for months. They've been talking. It came to my knowledge, I think, in June. And so I imagine the conversations may have even started before that. So they have maintained a relationship from their time with the Chargers, and he is extremely well-versed in this offense. He'll know the terminology, he'll know the scheme. And so that dovetails into number two that you mentioned, which is, them wanting to evaluate the other receivers. I think that is relevant in this regard. That's why they were willing, I think, to let this go a little longer. I think probably more on Keenan Allen's part, because who wants to go to training camp, right? That doesn't sound fun. And so who would you rather do that or stay home and spend the summer with your kids, right? So anyhow, I think they were willing to do it on his timeline, more willing to do it on his timeline because it gave them an opportunity to further evaluate what they had. Would it have changed their mind if someone else had jumped up and demanded that spot? Maybe, maybe not, but I never expected that to happen. I think he was always the better option. And so here we are.
Do you believe that Keenan Allen declined other inquiries because he knew that Indianapolis was the place from the get-go?
Well, I don't know for certain, but I do know there was some at least slight nervousness on the Colts' part that until he signs, he's still out there, and that was expressed to me like, hey, he is available to anybody, so I don't think there was ever like 100% certainty that they had him. I mean, we here in Indianapolis know how contracts work, right? I mean, Josh McDaniels was supposed to be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Remember that, right? And so we have seen situations like that before where you think something's going to happen and then something else happens. So, but I do think there was at least an understanding that this was going to be the end result.
Stephen Holder is my guest. He is on the Swabman's 2-in-1 hotline. Stephen, if you're going to buy a new car, you take it to a mechanic ahead of time. and you say to the mechanic, look, I know this is a nice car and it's got low mileage. I like everything about this car, but I need you, the mechanic, to look over this and tell me what you don't like.
Sure.
I'm not worried with what I know it runs great. I want you, the mechanic, to tell me the areas that might give me problems. Offensively speaking now for the Colts, be the mechanic. Tell me what it is on the offensive side of the ball that I still need to be paying attention to where it might rattle.
Yeah. So what is the $1,500 timing chain job, right?
Correct.
So I think one area that I have questions about is offensive line depth. I think it might be okay. Farmer, the rookie, good debut in his preseason showing, so that was promising. I think the question becomes like if they have an issue at center or tackle, and that's where because Farmer's a guard, right? So I think he covers them at either guard spot. I think the question for me is center or guard. I'm sorry, center or offensive tackle. Do you feel secure? And yeah, we're not talking about the starters. I actually like the starting lineup, maybe even a lot in terms of the offensive line. The reality, though, is that you cannot keep 5 guys healthy for 17 games. It has happened here one time, but that's it, one time. It never happens. It almost never happens anywhere, especially here. So you're going to likely have to tap into that depth at some point. You have, Daniel Jones' injury history, right? Protection is directly linked to the quarterback and his performance. And one of the reasons I believe that Daniel Jones played so well last year is because he was well protected. If you go back to New York, one of the biggest areas of failure for Daniel Jones was when he was under pressure. Now, he was good under pressure when under pressure last season, but I think that is directly related to him having confidence in the pass protection. So a lot of that's mental. So very long-winded way of saying, though, I just think that offensive line second unit, it has to come through because they're going to play, man. They're going to play more than likely.
Stephen, in your observation or opinion, or maybe that of those people that you have talked to over the years, what is the position not named quarterback? Okay, quarterback's the obvious answer here, but aside from quarterback, what position in the NFL does have the largest leap of adjustment between the college game to the pro game?
Yeah. Sometimes I think it's pass rush. I think you get a lot of pass rushers who in college are just superior athletes, and they can just go out there and beat the offensive tackle to the edge and just win. You know what I mean? You can just win. And you get to the NFL and the offensive tackles that you face are just too skilled. They have seen every move in the book. You can't out athlete them in some cases, but even the guys who are not great athletes, they are going to have a Rolodex of counter moves to you, or to counter you. And so that's why a lot of times, you see these great athletes come out of college at pass rusher, and it does take them a while, to adjust. I mean, you're seeing that to some extent with Leatu Latu. In college, his tape is, it is phenomenal. And he was, frankly, one of the best athletes on the field. They didn't have any answers because he was just so significantly more talented from a physical perspective that guys couldn't block him, But I do think he has had to adjust, right? He has had to refine his moves and counter moves because now, you've got this offensive tackle in front of you who's been doing this for 8 years, and he's seen a lot of guys like you, and he's not phased at all. The other one I would just say is corner can be that way, particularly because we're just defensive back generally, right? These quarterbacks are manipulating you with their eyes and, the pre-snap movement and cadence and all this stuff. The stuff that the NFL level, the elite quarterbacks in the NFL are doing, college quarterbacks aren't doing that. College quarterbacks are looking at the sideline. Okay, coach. Okay, got it. You get up there and now Aaron Rodgers has got, 47 syllables coming out of his mouth, right? So anyway, those two things I think are really difficult adjustments.
What is your level of concern over the back injury of Mooney Ward?
Well, I mean, if it's bad, huge concern. But I know that's not the question. I think we don't know.
Had, fought back from injury, concussions notably, and was very open. I had him on out at training camp, and he was extremely transparent about the mental aspect of coming back from that. And so many people in his corner telling him to go ahead and walk. And I realize neurological injury and coming back from that is different than a knee, a back, a hip. But he had to think about that for so long. Could that not be the immediate thought would be, okay, so here's another injury. So why would he would be more prone to walk away, except for that he had to do such deep soul searching just to come back? Wouldn't that lead you to believe that he is that much more intent on fighting through this?
I mean, that is one way to look at it. I think that's actually a very fair way of looking at it. I do think it's promising that, and maybe you could tell when you spoke to him, but in the times I've spoken to him recently, he was in a great frame of mind and has great perspective, even despite being honest about the fact that, like, I was this close to walking away. Now, if he is to be believed, he is in a really good place mentally, and he emphasized that. So I do think that's promising, because maybe this, whatever is going on with his back, then it doesn't derail him, right? And get him to a place where he's like second guessing this whole decision or what have you. I mean, maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but I think the Andrew Luck situation scarred me, right? Because I mean, Andrew Luck, kind of a similar situation, right? Went through a lot, not certainly in terms of the off the field stuff that Mooney went through, with the passing of his daughter, but just in terms of like going through a lot of injuries and having to fight through that and wondering if you still wanted to do this. And then he got back, and it's like, oh, here's another little injury. And Andrew was like, I'm out. I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. It wasn't a career-ending injury. And this one isn't either, we don't think.
Do we know
Mooney.
what the back injury is?
I don't know. And that's why I'm a little hesitant to like go all the way with this. Like, no problem. It's going to be fine. Because I can't say that, all Shane Steichen has said is that he's got a sore back, which so do I. Okay.
Right.
Welcome to the club. I'm a middle-aged man, right? So that doesn't tell us anything. And it certainly doesn't speak to how long he's going to be out or how much concern we should have about it. But, I would say this, the length of time that he's out maybe doesn't necessarily tell us anything, because as long as he's got something going on, the decision they're going to make, which is the right one, is you take your time. We got a month to go. You sit there until you're 100%, and then you come back out here and we'll be ready to roll.
Okay.
So I think they're going to just be super, super, super cautious.
Let me present you a hypothetical, and I don't want this to happen. I'm not trying to speak it into existence. I'm asking it for the sake of perspective here, okay? It's early November, and Daniel Jones has a recurrence of an injury that is going to end his season. Or maybe not even end his season, but he's going to miss extended period of time. Who starts the next game for the Colts?
So I think as we sit here today, I think Anthony Richardson. But I think I understand what you're asking. Long-term absence versus
Correct.
Short-term absence,
Correct.
right? I
Correct.
think that's what you're getting at. And I think you're asking a fair question, because Anthony is probably the perfect quarterback for a 1 week situation. You can kind of scheme up a game plan tailored to him against that opponent and let it rip, for 1 week. And I like your chances, frankly, Anthony, as a longer term solution, he's got to be consistent. And that is the source of his the source of his struggles, frankly,
But
since he's
Stephen,
been in the NFL.
At what point? At what point do we begin to say that Anthony Richardson, who has won games as a starting quarterback in the NFL, if Shane Steichen is the offensive guru quarterback whisperer that he is reputed to be, shouldn't he be that with every quarterback as opposed to just simply one that matches what he wants?
Okay,
At what
well,
point is
that's a
Shane
great
Steichen
yes.
responsible for getting something out of Anthony Richardson? Because if he's on the roster, it is your job to maximize what you can get out of every player. And okay, you're the quarterback whisperer, then you need to come up with something that caters to the quarterback as much as the quarterback needs to come up with something that caters to you.
That is totally fair. That is totally fair. And frankly, just as an aside, I'll get to that in a second. Let's go back to last year. Okay, Daniel Jones gets hurt. Anthony Richardson's not available. Riley Leonard's sitting there. Yeah, I know he had a sore knee, but let's be honest, right? I mean, Riley was ready to roll. He said, like, I'm good to go. Like, I'll deal with that. And they could have played him. And they signed Phillip freaking Rivers. Okay,
Right.
5 years on the couch. So then to say to the fan base that, well, we think he's a better option than the guy who has actually started 15 games in the NFL and won a majority of them. That just sounds crazy, but I don't know. But anyway, to your point, I think it's a great question. What is the expectation for Shane Steichen? I think you're right. He has probably rightfully gained that reputation, for being a guy who can get the best out of quarterbacks. He did it last year with Daniel Jones. I think what it requires with Anthony Richardson is more flexibility on Steichen's part. And maybe that's something he's less willing to do. I mean, he has a scheme. He's very confident in that scheme, and he wants to run that scheme the way it's designed. The thing is, that might not be the best option all the time with Anthony Richardson. Sometimes you got to take some shortcuts with him. And part of that is, A, the way he plays. He's kind of boom or bust. But also just because maybe his skill set, right? Maybe he's a different kind of quarterback. I think we can all agree, right? He's not a drop back, sit in the pocket 30 times a game kind of guy. He can do it, but is that the best use of Anthony Richardson? That's the question. And I say maybe not.
Lastly, and most importantly, I don't know if this is just in my mind. I don't know if you made an offhand comment once. For whatever reason, we have on this program attached you as Wu-Tang Clan being your number one in terms of like hip-hop artists. Now, is that just because you made that comment in passing and that's labeled to you, or is it in fact your number one go-to?
Well, okay, so if we're talking groups, yes.
Okay.
Individuals, I don't know. I'm probably a bigger Jay-Z fan individually, but I will say this. I am a massive Wu-Tang Clan fan.
So give me your top five.
You
in the genre, give me your top five.
Yeah.
I did
top
see.
Five,
have you seen, Steven?
acts.
Have you seen these? It pops up on my Facebook all the time. Have you seen this guy that goes around, and it's usually like in Australia or somewhere, because it's always like super good looking people that he stops. But this guy that stops people and he says, "What's your favorite song of all time?" And they tell him, and then he goes to the next person and plays it and says, "Rate this song 1 to 10." Have you seen this?
I haven't seen this, no.
At any rate, he asks one girl who's like this really good-looking girl, and, he walks up on the beach. He goes, "What's your favorite song of all time?" And she goes, "Probably Smooth Operator by Sade." And I thought, if you can't pronounce the name of the artist, then it can't be, you can't count it, right?
Oh, my God.
Right.
Wow.
And I will admit to this.
I'm so embarrassed, secondhand embarrassment here.
Listen, I'm 2 weeks away from being 54 years old, and I was like 52 and 2 weeks removed from that before I realized that Sade actually is the name of the band and not the actual lead singer.
Same. But
Same
I mean,
with
like,
Blondie.
the world's been waiting 30 years for like another Sade album, and she's calling her Sade.
Correct.
Like, get out of here. She is definitely, like, by the way, I mean, like, if you're young and you don't know like good music, and maybe you think her name is Sade and you're listening to this, go listen to her. Go listen to her catalog. Is what I'd say.
Okay, Wu-Tang Clan,
Anyway.
Jay-Z. Who else you got?
So I would put Nas is an incredible rapper. I remember the day I
Okay.
got his album in high school.
Okay.
Personally, how many is that? 3, 4?
3. Yeah, you're at 3.
3? This is not on most people's list, I don't think, but A Tribe Called Quest.
Okay.
I mean, like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know, all-time greats.
Aren't they the ones that wanted Mr. Dinkins to please be the mayor? Was that Tribe Called Quest?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
That was the late.
You'd be
I think
doing us
that
a
was
really
the
big
late Fife
favor.
Dog. That's right. That's right. That's right. So this is where it gets tricky. You know, there's a couple groups, couple individuals. I mean, Notorious Big, obviously. I mean, he is a part of the conversation. Tupac, heard of
Okay.
him. I put Tupac because I think Tupac had so much influence, you know, and he still does, I think, on the genre. And then it becomes a matter of, is it Kendrick Lamar or Notorious Big after Tupac, I guess, for me.
Okay. Now I'm going to, maybe I'll show my age here. Okay. I'll go Public
Yes.
Enemy number 1.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Okay. I will go.
In terms of like impact on the culture, man,
No,
Public Enemy.
just in terms of that.
No,
too.
for
I mean,
me, I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I think that counts is what I'm saying.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I'll tell you one thing, though, Stephen, you know, flippancy aside here,
Mhm.
to your point, one thing that Public Enemy, and I don't know if I'd put Tupac in this category as much. I would certainly put NWA in the category of what I'm about to say. But
Mhm.
what Public Enemy did incredibly well and of great importance, and I think NWA is the same, is they bridged the gap between you to me and me to you.
Mhm.
They allowed for, you know, white middle-class kids in suburbia to begin to have an understanding, maybe not a
Yeah.
relation to, but an understanding of what it was that was on the minds of Black America. And that,
Yeah,
I think, was an important
put
aspect.
I would put Ice Cube in the same conversation.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, I look at like Do the Right Thing. I don't know how many suburban white kids watch that movie, but like Spike Lee's use of Public Enemy in that movie is top tier. Incredible.
Yes.
It's just perfect.
I would put Above the Law. Are you familiar with Above the Law?
I am. Yeah, absolutely.
The DOC also, by the way, the DOC was like I'm trying to think of the equivalent here. Who's an NFL player that like the DOC was like RG3. Like in the beginning, it was unbelievable, and then as soon as it got hurt, it was over, right? But the DOC was pretty cool.
That's right.
Now, I've told you this story 10,000 times, but I'll repeat it again. In terms of Do the Right Thing and Public Enemy, the beauty of that and the resonance of that for me and for Northside Indianapolis is the fact that they were going to, coming off the heels of Do the Right Thing, Public Enemy somehow was lined up to give a convocation at North Central High School. I've told you this, right?
This is the greatest story ever.
The night before they were supposed to come, Professor Griff, who was no longer with Public Enemy, made controversial statements on Nightline, so they canceled the convocation. All hell broke loose. And then to make good on it, they gave a live performance of the mayor and Rap City, and BET came live to North Central with Big Daddy Kane and Third Base. And Third Base made everybody in unison give the principal of North Central High School the gas face on the stage live, and it was the most surreal moment of my life. So, yes,
Great.
you allowed me to tell that story again, so thank you. It was the best.
I'm here for it, man.
All right, so the Colts and Falcons getting set for joint practices. Preseason game number 2 is coming up on Thursday, correct? Or no, Sunday,
well,
1 o'clock. Sunday, 1 o'clock.
Saturday at 1.
Saturday?
Yeah. It is. Yes. What day is today?
Yeah,
Yes.
today's Tuesday. You're right.
Yeah, practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, game prep, and then Saturday game.
Saturday,
Yeah.
1 o'clock. All right, Stephen Holder will have it all covered, ESPN.com. Appreciate it, as always.
All right, you got it.
All right, Stephen Holder joining us on the Swab Men's 2-1 hotline. We'll come back. We'll get back into one thing we haven't talked a lot about because we were so dismayed, at least I was, over their lack of taste in chips. But what can they do tonight north of the border? Who am I talking about and what am I talking about? We'll tell you next.
Barry and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Eddie, are you familiar with the song?
No.
We used to have a dance we do to this in the car. Are you ready? Here. We do this in the car the whole time. And how cool does that look?
Okay, if we can get to, what are we at? Hold on, let me refresh this real quick. I got to refresh the live stream here, Jake. If we can get up to, let's see, 50 likes in the next 15 minutes, in the next 10 minutes, you got to do that again.
I mean, if I do it, all I have to do is do that, and the likes will fly off the handle.
Are you sure? We may start getting dislikes.
It's hard to do on this chair because this chair rides like you need a.
It what?
It goes up and down with me. Like I need something that has a little bit more. Ripped out my headset. That sits still because I'm that allows me a little more of my groove. The chair is moving with me, and that I need resistance, and that's what allows for the natural boom boom. But like we came up with that in terms of that dance with the gas face, and I got to tell you, I mean that was a lady killer, is what it was.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. If you just go to our 107.5 The Fan YouTube account, or you just go to YouTube, search Query & Company, boom, right there, you'll find the live stream. Give us a like so Jake can dance again.
Okay. So tell me again how to do that.
Just go to YouTube, search Query & Company. It'll be the first thing that pops up. Or you can search 107.5 The Fan. Click on the channel. You'll see that. Okay. For some reason, you're dancing even though we haven't hit the 50 likes. Come on. Can't be giving it away for free, Jake. Come on now.
Sorry. By the way.
While you're there, make sure to subscribe.
And in addition to that, if you go to 1075thefan.com, not to overdo you here with requests, but this one's an important one, because as we talked about, when Indianapolis, the thing that makes this city great, the thing that makes this state great. Every state talks about it, but I do think it's unique here in terms of just our ability to reach up and help everybody. I just saw a video from Molly near Ravenswood of her parents' house that has about 3 feet of water in it. Devastating videos that you see of people losing everything, really. And Radio 1 Indianapolis, that's the company obviously here with all of our radio stations, Fox 59 and CBS 4, all joining with the American Red Cross to help out folks to getting everybody back on their feet when it comes to everything from the floods. Donations could be used, I should say, for anything from meals to safe shelter, emergency supplies, all of it through the American Red Cross facilitating. And if you would like to find out how you can help out or make a donation, no matter what amount it might be, you can do so at 1075thefan.com to stand together with all of us in helping everybody out. Where are we on the likes there, Eddie?
21. Gotta get up to 50.
Yeah, that 21's, come on. So people just need to go to YouTube, enter this program, and then like it.
Yeah.
You do that.
Or you just go to 1075 The Fan. You can search that way. I'll take you right to the channel.
And you're going to make me dance. If I stand up and do the dance, but then you run the risk of breaking the internet. We don't want to do that.
We want to break the internet, Jake.
Last night, speaking of breaking the internet, the Fever kind of did that because they did a taste test of different snack items in Canada. And it's almost like they listen to this show. Because what have I been saying about Canada forever? One of the things I've been saying about Canada is they have different snacks there. Their candy bars are different. They got a bunch of them. Every time I go up there, I bring back different candy bars and other such things. See, sometimes we set trends here, and people then do. And then the ketchup potato chips, which are fabulous. And, yes, I know you can buy them on Amazon, but it costs an arm and a leg, thanks tariffs, and other such things. Then there's the all dressing chips. So last night, the Fever, Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hole, Sophie Cunningham, those are the 3 that apparently have never been to Canada. So they did a taste test of different snacks. And one of the things that they tested out were the ketchup chips. And Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham gave it a thumbs down. But it's an acquired taste. You got to go through
Caitlin Clark said, why would anyone eat these? And who's eating these?
Yeah, you can't judge it just off one chip.
No. You got to eat the whole bag.
And then what happens by the time you eat the whole bag, Eddie?
You want more.
You do, right?
Yeah.
It's an acquired taste. So they did not like the ketchup chips. Now, tonight, they probably are going to like the matchup. They take on the Tempo of Toronto. 7 o'clock pregame can be heard here at 6:30.
Jake, do you remember what you were doing on July the 12th?
Of this year?
Yes.
It was a week after.
You weren't dancing for YouTube likes, so I know you weren't doing that.
What that would have been hang on. July the 12th would have been a Sunday? Is that right?
July the 12th was a Sunday, yes.
I do not recall what I was doing on July 12th.
You don't?
Wait a minute. No, I do. Hold on. No, I don't recall.
That was the last time the Toronto Tempo won a game.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were 9-9. They're now 10-23.
I don't understand this per se. Do we know, and I know that there would be one, what is the significance of the term of the nickname?
The Tempo?
I mean, most of the teams in the W, at least in the initial formation of it, the nickname played off of the NBA in some way. The Mystics to the Wizards. I mean, the Dream, obviously, because Atlanta and Dr. Martin Luther King.
The name was chosen to reflect the rhythm, pace, and energy of the city in the game of basketball.
Okay.
That's it.
I mean, it's not a bad name. I would have thought they would have gone with, like, the T-Rex or something to feed off of Raptors, because typically, and I know the Fever doesn't feed off of Pacers, but many of them do. The Mercury to the Suns, etc. in the initial installment, but this is a little bit different than that. Speaking of, by the way.
What about the Knicks?
Huh?
The Knicks? NYX?
Who's that?
That's a female dinosaur.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
but that sounds
Luna?
That sounds too much like Knicks, though.
Luna?
Okay, Luna's not bad. The Toronto Luna, that's not bad. NYX sounds too much like New York Knicks.
Yeah.
We have tickets to give away, do we not?
We do indeed, Jake. We do have tickets. A family 4-pack of tickets for Saturday at Michael A. Carroll Stadium, the Indy 11 taking on their rival Lou City. We've got a 4-pack of tickets to give away for that match. 7 o'clock is when kickoff will be. It's a Noche Latina festivities going on that night, so a lot of fun over at Michael A. Carroll Stadium.
And this is for this Saturday. How would you like to give away said tickets?
We can do it via text line.
Okay. Text number what? You said, how about this?
Let's go with 13. That's the number that Keenan Allen wears.
Okay, not bad. So number 13, if you are the 13th person to text and you would like to go see the Indy 11 coming up for Noche Latina night on this Saturday, Michael Carroll Stadium, then we will send you on your way. Text to number 13 and simply say hello. We got a lot of online demands there in one segment. But J&B does join us. We'll see if he's upright. He's going to join us next as the crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com, 317-353-2141. Hey there, Jake Query for Surfside. We were just talking about the chips that are an acquired taste. Surfside is not. Surfside is fabulous from The very first taste. I'm talking about iced tea with a splash of vodka, lemonade with a splash of vodka. The blueberry lemonade has been a big seller for them. I love personally the tea with lemonade and vodka right there in the same can because it is so smooth. No carbonation, so incredibly, it's like velvety smooth when you taste it and enjoy it. And just 100 calories and 2 grams of sugar. Surfside, look for the can with the sunset stripes. Wherever you buy your favorite adult beverages, you can buy variety packs. You can buy them right there individually with the different flavors that they have to offer. Surfside, look for it wherever you buy your favorite adult beverages. Please be 21 and please consume Surfside responsibly. Hey there, Jake Query for Chicago's Pizza. Still got 42 minutes to get in for the Chicago's Pizza lunch buffet. Actually, I take that back. 15 more minutes to get in for the lunch buffet. Every single day, the lunch buffet from 11:30 until 1, and it is awesome. I'm talking about traditional pizza, deep dish pizza, salad bar with all the fixings, all the dressings that you want, fresh right there before your very eyes. Don't forget about the fact that they have the hand-rolled breadsticks, and they are in early every single morning making the fresh dough in-house at Chicago's Pizza. It's one of the things that makes it so great. That, and along with the lunch buffet, that you get all of those options plus a soft drink for a price better than what you're going to pay at some fast food place across the street. Chicago's Pizza started in 1979, 19 central Indiana locations, 26 across the state of Indiana. And Eddie and I will be talking about them because we've got our upcoming fantasy draft I think we're going to do once again at Chicago's Pizza. That alone, it's great to be in our fantasy draft, but to be able to enjoy Chicago's Pizza with us is even better. Chicago's Pizza, look for it across the state of Indiana, 26 locations. Find a location near you at chicagospizza.com.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Okay, let's check in on a couple of things here. Eddie, first off, did we get a winner for the tickets to the Indy 11?
Yes.
You seem distracted.
Yes, we did.
Secondly, is there a reason you're Rick-rolling all of us?
No.
Just decided to do that?
Yeah. Is there a problem with playing Rickroll?
Nobody wants to admit deep down they kind of like this song, right?
Right.
Kind of makes me feel like I'm in the dentist's office. But and then third, we did or didn't hit the 50 mark.
Oh, good question. Let me hit refresh. Good question.
I'm going to be humiliated here when you're like, no, we're at 36.
We are at 40. We just need 10 more. 10 more thumbs. 10 more thumbs to get Jake
it's
to
not
dance.
that I'm
Come
wanting
on now.
It's not that I'm wanting to do the dance again, but how do we not get? I mean, are we? Do we not want people to know? Are we dying on a vine here? Is that what we're doing? Are we dying on a vine? Are we the last to get the memo?
I guess.
It feels that way, does it not?
I guess people just don't want to see those dance moves.
I do a great Deion Sanders dance as well.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. But that requires standing up and moving, and I'm not going to do that while I'm sitting here in this seat in the studio. But joining us now, the crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com, 317-353-2141. And JMV is rocking it like it's 2015 because he's got on his white sunglasses. And now, John, the real question is this, and I'm fighting a little of it. Are we sick or is this allergies?
No, I'm sick. I'm pretty sick. Yeah, I've never been sick, or at least not in a long time in the summer. And it's brutal. But nah, something's got me in a headlock right now. It is absolute sickness. So
John,
hopefully I didn't pass that along to you.
John, you in your backyard or in the side yard?
I'm in the side yard. I'm getting ready to go to my vehicle.
Well, if you pan one way, you can probably get my parents' house in the background, can't you?
Well, I mean, we can walk down there. Hold on a sec. Let's go.
Eddie, are your parents home right now?
Let me check. Mom certainly is not.
JMV lives, by the way, for those that don't know, lives near the Garrison household. Is this the house you grew up in, Eddie?
No. Uh-oh. John's frozen.
Shots right here.
There we go.
You see that? Huh?
There we go. Yep. Casa de Garrison right over John's shoulder.
There it is right there.
I just see like a row of trees, but.
And then right across the way is Paradise Day Watson. And yeah, this is it right here. Am I messing up the shots here? Is it freezing, Eddie? Or are we okay?
No, we're good now.
So John, cool. You are in the mix for today. Then you're like Shavarius Ward. You're gonna fight through this, right?
Well, yeah, I don't think there's much choice. I think I kind of gotta. So yes, but it's a good day to do it. It's not like I'm working a jackhammer. This is not tough or anything. But,
that is correct.
Yeah, we'll get Rakestraw, we'll get Charles Arbuckle, and Rick Venturi joins us, and a lot of Keenan Allen conversation is going to happen coming up later on today. So no, it's a good day to be sick. I'll take some drugs. You know, it's funny. I got popped in the nose hooping the other day, and only a little bit of blood came out. I don't know how much blood's in me, Jake, to be honest with you. I don't know if there's very much or not. I think everything I've taken, ingested, rubbed on, injected, I think it's all soaked up in my blood.
I don't mean to be like too harsh here, John, but whatever blood is in you right now is in your nose because it's looking a little red from the cold that you've got. But that's okay.
Yeah, it's not. Listen, it's not. I'm not in a good spot right here, and it's a rarity. I'm never sick for one, but never in the summertime. Summertime sickness is brutal, guys.
It is. It's tough. There's no question about it. All right. Well, get some of that Jason Hammer medicine on once you get in, and then get going, and we'll be listening at 3:00.
Hey, Jake. By the way, you like my Kenny Brack impersonation here with these sunglasses on?
Yeah, you got. It is a little Kenny Brack, Dan Weldon look. That's good. I like it. Right?
Yeah, cool.
Little Freddie
guys.
Goes to Hollywood look. I appreciate that. All right, John, appreciate it. We'll be listening 3:00 again. The crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com is the website. Thanks to Zach Kiefer, also Stephen Holder, for joining us on the program today. Thanks to all of you for listening. We are back at it again tomorrow. And maybe by then we'll get enough likes that I can dance once again on the screen. But we'll be back with you 10:00 tomorrow. I thank you for listening to Query & Company.